Hi. What a great opportunity. Thank you very much for putting together the Taiwan-Israel Cybersecurity Industry Symposium. It's very exciting. I've been to Taiwan many times, both in cybersecurity and other matters, and I love the country. I wish soon we'll visit in person again and not by Zoom, but thank you so much for putting this interesting event. Oren, with your permission, can you just scroll the slides? What I want to talk about today is a little bit about how we look at cybersecurity, and I want to connect to the great presentation that we saw from a wild venture from Offer, and to speak a little bit about the spot that probably is not getting as much attention so far in the innovation, but probably needs much more attention. And I'll focus on the response. Maybe you can move one more slide. What I want to show you, similar to what we saw from Offer at Wild Ventures, indeed, Israel's cybersecurity technology landscape is booming and we see a lot of investments. And as Offer said, we see investments in domain which seem to be on the rise, like IoT, cloud security, medical devices that are connected, all the new infrastructures that are coming actually instead of the old legacy infrastructures are being now a challenge and a protection. However, I want to share with you from our own experience what is the space that probably does not have enough innovation, and probably that's the weakest spot currently of cybersecurity. So I'll share with you my personal story or my personal experience. I normally come to cybersecurity companies, and we can leave it here. Maybe one more slide on here. Here is the problem with how companies respond to cybersecurity. And I want to a little bit focus on this problem. What is the problem? Most of the companies invest in cybersecurity in trying to prevent a security event. So a lot of the technologies, a lot of the innovation, and certainly a lot of the spending by venture capitals and also by companies is in trying to prevent the cybersecurity incident. And it makes a lot of sense because practically the reason that we invest in cybersecurity is we want to try to prevent, or sometimes to detect in real time, and therefore to stop an attempt to actually have a cyber incident in our organization. However, I'll share with you the experience. When organizations are not successful and there is a cyber attack, and as Ronen brilliantly presented in the beginning, both Israel and Taiwan are the two most attacked nations, given that we have some enemies or some kind of like nation states that are focusing on targeting us. When they're successful, the cyber attacker is successful, and you have a successful attack, now it's the question how good an organization is responding to this attack. And here the story is far from being a story of success. What we have seen that in so many companies, even if they're so successful and so focused on cybersecurity prevention, when they have an incident, normally companies are not so good in responding. And I want to shed a light on the reason why response is not so good, and why we see when companies suffering a cyber incident, sometimes the impact of this incident, meaning the damages that they suffer from downtime, from effect on the business, reputation, legal claims, investigations after that, effect on their ability to continue the business is so dramatic. Because one can tell, we see when the hackers are successful or the attacker is successful and manage to manifest the attack, normally the damages go well beyond what one could expect from this attack. Just the ransomware example that Ronen gave earlier. Both Israel and Taiwan suffering from a ransomware wave of attacks. And I think we'll hear later from Minerva, who is really a leader in protecting against ransomware. But when an organization suffers ransomware, you would assume that if the organization is prepared to respond, even though they have a ransomware attack, they'll be able quite swiftly to recover. They probably should have had the data backup, should have had the system resilient to such an attack, and be able to actually work on the disaster recovery system or some other solution they had for business continuity. And the ransomware attacker should not be so successful. It's okay that some attacker gained access to one of our platforms and encrypted the data, but in theory, response should be swift. The organization should go back to a normal business operation by going to the backups or the disaster recovery and continue operation. That's in theory. In real life, as Ronen demonstrated with the ransomware attack, there is a devastating outcome. Most companies that suffer ransomware attack are actually out of business for days, sometimes months. In Israel, we had an hospital for a few months out of business. We have industrial companies, as Ronen demonstrated in his opening, that actually suffered a long-term ransomware attack. In theory, they shouldn't have suffered so much if they were prepared for response. In reality, as probably Itai or Nat would show you later, with his, I think, very innovative and groundbreaking intelligence solutions, we know who are the attackers. We know how they're going to attack with a ransomware attack. We know how to investigate it. However, still most companies, when they suffer this attack, have dramatic failure in response. And the reason it's so, first of all, in most organizations, we believe that the CISO should be one to lead the response. And it's a wrong approach, because CISO is very well positioned to actually respond to the preparing with cybersecurity. But once you have the incident, let's say that you have a ransomware incident that actually took down your systems, most of the response is outside the technical domain of security. It's more in the investigative space. It's more actually in IT and resilience. It has much more to do actually with the ability to gain intelligence and to conduct forensic investigations. And unfortunately, most CISOs were not trained for this and are not equipped for this. So when the organization do suffer an attack, we see most organizations don't have a clear leadership who is going to lead this incident. Second, quite often the incident is not at my premises. Many of the attacks are supply chain attacks. Even if I'm very successful in preventing against an attack on my platforms, I'm not prepared to protect against an attack which someone else on my supply chain suffered, but I'm actually having the cyber incident now. Second, most incident response manuals focused on how to do the technical aspects, how to investigate it, how to get logs, how to analyze the incident. However, most of the damages in cyber incident are totally not technical. It's managerial issues, like how do I maintain my clients? How do I keep my reputation? How do I protect from legal claims? How do I actually activate the insurance? How do I work with investigative authorities? And the problem too often that when we focus too much on incident response in the technical side, all the managerial aspects, which is, by the way, the focus of our company, how you manage a cyber crisis, how you bring to the table the CEO, the COO, the legal, the PR person, the investigative person, how do you bring them to the table and analyze all these managerial aspects, quite often are not represented in the way that now we respond to an incident, which is too much technical tools. And another thing, most organizations, even if they have the technical tool to investigate or respond to an incident, still don't tackle so good how to make sure that your business processes are resilient at the time of an attack. It's a field that normally we call business continuity. However, most of business continuity programs of the past, and even the tools like disaster recovery, active backups, all of them were perfect business continuity tools when you needed to address something like natural disaster or an earthquake. They were not geared to tackle a cyber attack. And therefore, an organization that invested so much, for example, on an active backup, meaning that in real time you actively back up all your data. If you have an attacker, a sophisticated attacker, that was in your network and actually impact the integrity of the data or encrypted the data, by active, you're also having an active backup, which is now corrupted. It was very good protection for earthquake or something physical attack, but it's certainly not the right solution for a cyber attack. So what we saw that most organizations are not prepared in terms of business continuity and resilience for a cyber attack. And here is the big problem. Can you have one more slide, Ronen?
And you have 1 more minute.
1 more minute. Here is the problem with the innovation. Current problems are for the CISO that they just have technical response, but they cannot manage all the aspects of the investigation. However, current solution, and also as we saw with Wild Ventures, focus primarily on prevention or focus primarily on solutions that will be on the technical side. So for example, how to operate the SOC or how to operate the ticketing system, which is all on the technical side. But there's no solution at the moment on the interdisciplinary aspect, the managerial aspects, the business continuity, the operational expertise. And the problem why so little investment is done in this realm is because it's hard to scale, it's not automated, and it's part of it, it's services based, and therefore investors are not going to this kind of solution. They prefer solutions you can automate and scale. However, here is the big dilemma. On the one hand, you have so many tools that you have in the innovation landscape as Wild Venture presented. However, the blind spot that you have is all the how you respond and the business and operational aspect of the cyber crisis and the need for expertise, which cannot be automated. That's create a big opportunity now for the Israeli market. We see more and more companies understand that the blind spot is response and how you tackle an incident. And I think Ronen, with his incredible job at Tip Ventures, is bringing not only solutions which are technologies, but also services companies in Israel to help to create the resilience in the Taiwanese market. Thank you very much, Ronen, for the opportunity to present in such a distinguished symposium.
Thank you very much. Thank you.